Piotr, good morning.
Hi.
It's nice to see you. I'm glad to see you smiling after your first round at the World Championships. And let me just say right away that I'm impressed by how well you can keep your mouth shut.
Thank you sincerely.
I already asked you when we met when you would compete in the World Championships, and you let me know that there was a good chance of it. But you didn't tell Uncle Andres that it would be now.
At that time it was actually very easy to keep my mouth shut because I didn't know anything yet. We got the information from the team just a few days before leaving. So for 3 days straight, we were just sitting with documents, trying to get everything ready and scheduling last minute medical tests, for which you also have to wait quite a while for the results. It took relatively long, and somehow we managed to pull everything together and go to Misano.
Okay, because from my perspective, it looked like it was all, a perfectly laid out plan. Because you had tests on the Moto2 with the Triumph engine already, right? In Barcelona, which team was that with?
That was with the stop and go, but those tests were more of a preparation in case I had to replace a particular rider during the season.
Okay, because from my perspective, it looked like a well hatched plan. Like, all right, here we go. I'm doing this. Here we're supposedly just testing, but in reality, we actually set up for something. But no, it was just spontaneous and impromptu action, right?
Yeah.
What documents did you have to prepare? Yeah, because for all of us, this is a completely new thing that we can talk to someone who's really on the inside there. So just tell me, what kind of documents were they, more or less?
I mean, I really had to prepare a comprehensive international license to be able to race in the World Championships, not just for a single one-off event, which actually happened pretty quickly. But I absolutely had to acquire one that would be valid for the entire racing season, so I could participate in many more races and competitions. Thus, on top of that, look, now there's an incredibly convenient app for your phone, and you absolutely have to send me a digital scan of your official passport and also a comprehensive PDF document with a confirmed negative COVID test result. It has to be a specific type of test, and it can't be done more than 48 hours before arriving at the track. So there were a lot of new things for us, and we also had to coordinate tokens with the team, so it wasn't necessarily difficult stuff, but if we had a week or two, it would have been pretty straightforward. But having only 2 or 3 days, we really had to bend over back.
Okay, so what did you feel when you got the message, listen, there's a spot, you can give it a try? You're going to Misano, a place you've never been before. Was it more luck, joy, euphoria, or more like heart palpitations?
There was definitely a lot of joy that some team actually appreciated our work over the past few years. So I found out that they had been watching me for some time already, for a few months. But mainly there were some doubts about whether I should actually go to Misano now or wait to Barcelona.
Do you know Barcelona?
Yes, and actually not knowing the specific motorcycle, since it's a completely different frame, and not knowing the challenging track, and Misano is also widely considered one of the most difficult and demanding tracks on the entire racing calendar. As many experienced riders I already know on the circuit have explicitly told me, we ultimately decided it would be a very good and beneficial test. And honestly, I truly didn't treat this particular race as a competitive race weekend, but rather as essential preparation for the upcoming event in Barcelona. Also, no, I'm not expecting the result to be significantly better, but for sure we'll be able to start working on the bike from the very first practice and not from the third one, really. Plus, other riders will also be there for the first time this season, not for the second week in a row. So I think the chances will be a bit more even now. Of course, it will only be my second weekend as well, so I'm not expecting anything spectacular, but I'll give it my all out there. And I think we can really do some good work with the team from the start, get to know each other better and get to know the bike even more.
All right, we'll get to the bike in a moment. I'd like to know what your impressions were when you arrived at Misano, because I know you live in Spain. By the way, we invite everyone to check out the interview with you, because we won't go into detail now about your story, life in Spain, training, and so on. So we'll direct people there. We'll provide a link to the interview we already did. Do you know these people? Do you meet these people at various training sessions, those who regularly compete in the World Championships? you've brushed up against that world, but this was the first time you had a pass. You entered the paddock as a full-fledged competitor, and suddenly all those people are there. What was that experience like?
I mean, I've been in the World Championship paddock a few times before. Once on Thursday in Aragon, I think it was 2018, and once last year at Barcelona on Friday. So I more or less knew what the paddock looked like. What surprised me was that obviously there was no one around. Everyone was sitting in the garages working, so the whole paddock was empty. It seemed like there were at most 50, maybe 100 people there, so it was very strange. But I think it was good for me because I didn't feel any extra pressure. It looked very similar to the European Championships. Of course, there were a lot more trucks, and I could tell the budget was also significantly bigger. The paddock itself is twice as big. Plus, of course, there are separate garages that are brought in by the organizers because there's so many teams that they have to bring in extra garages. Or rather, you could call them tents. But since I saw it with my own eyes, they weren't under any special pressure. Actually, as I already mentioned, the paddock was calmer than usual than in previous years, but I already knew a few people there and I really felt good there. I felt prepared that I really could be there, so there was no stress at all. Maybe there was a little bit of stress, but it was more excitement than any kind of fear.
Okay, people are definitely curious. Is it like this? We won't go into details. Did you get offers, or when you get such an offer, do you still have to pay to join a team like that because you have your own sponsors? Or is it that the team simply invites you, listen, we have a spot, you're going, we cover everything?
Yes, you have to pay for it, but obviously in the World Championships it's much easier to get sponsors, so you only pay a much smaller portion of the cost. Plus it's a factory team, so I don't have to pay extra for the actual equipment. I just have to cover the production costs. So all of this is a bit cheaper for them. As I said, additional sponsors who are easier to find than in the European Championship at this point. Of course, I also want to thank OPIC, who has been with us from the beginning, and Wojciech Gretekors, who was from the Wojciech Racing team, for their help in this.
The response was quick, wasn't it?
Yes, the response was quick, and I'm really very grateful for that. Not just for the financial support itself, but also for the fact that they had to put in some extra effort to organize everything so quickly.
Awesome. We also thank you on behalf of all the fans. The motorcycle itself, well, let's be honest, if you look at the rider rankings, well, it's Kalex, then somewhere there's Speed Up, Kalex. Somewhere in there we have MV Agusta. NTS probably isn't the most competitive bike, but as we're saying, it's all about learning right now. The tests you did in Barcelona chassis were you using for those? Was that on the Kalex or on the Speed Up?
That was on the Kalex, but honestly, NTS might not be a top chassis. Though I think now those 2 or 3 tenths don't really make a huge difference. The team is giving me really great opportunities to learn and a lot of support.
So just to be clear, for a rider who's already experienced in the World Championship, is that about 2 or 3 tenths of a second on the chassis?
I mean, I don't know exactly, but I strongly suspect it's actually less than half a second, perhaps even just a fraction.
Okay.
I think it's more like around 2 or 3 tenths, that's my guess. Kalex has always had this quality, even with the Honda engine, that it was simply easier to set up. And really, in every phase of the corner, it was never amazing, but it didn't have any beat.
Okay.
From what I've seen, it's similar now with the Triumph engines, but since NTS or RW Racing is a factory team, we can also develop this motorcycle, and we still have support from Kayaba, who also helps us with the bike's development. So can't just focus on the frame, but we can also improve the suspension.
Okay. I didn't know that Kayaba supplies the suspension there. That's probably not very common. I don't think they appear in too many teams, unless I'm mistaken.
No, but
It's interesting that they're involved in Moto2 because theoretically you either go all in or how do you rate that suspension? What were your first impressions?
at first I didn't expect much, but I have to admit it was actually really nice to ride. Of course, it's clear I didn't try it on the same frame as the Erlens, but it performed very well when the bike was unstable. The suspension was really easy to control, and you could clearly feel the moment when you needed to do something to simply regain stability.
Okay, so that sounds much better than one might expect. Because, when you look at a simple sheet and see that the NTS bikes are at the bottom, you don't see the other side of it, the possibilities you have. With Kalex, you wouldn't really have much of a say in anything.
Yes, with Kalex, I truly think that they would only consider doing something significant if two, or perhaps even three of the top 5 riders explicitly voiced it. However, there are currently so many talented riders who are successfully utilizing their bikes and achieving such consistently good results that I believe even if someone like Luca Marini were to bring up a particular issue, they wouldn't really do very much about it at all.
Okay, the Misano track itself, you mentioned some instability issues. You could see that it was a bit of a rodeo out there. When I was watching, I noticed there's a new surface and there are bumps. It's kind of strange, they put down a new surface, yet it's still bumpy. But that corner, the one you take almost flat out, the right-hander, I can't remember which one it is. When I was watching the coverage, I thought, oh man, poor Piotr. You don't know the track, it's a new bike, and there you have no choice. Because you can either gain a lot or lose a lot, right?
Fortunately, it's quite a difficult and challenging corner, and it's not even primarily about the sheer speed itself, but rather about what inherently comes with Italy's slight momentary delay in reaction or reacting just a little too early when precisely leaning the bike means your intended line is already significantly and noticeably different. And with a corner like that, well, if you're merely half a meter from the very outside curves on a corner, that's a full 180 degrees. It genuinely doesn't change much at all. If the corner is only 15 or 20 degrees, the difference is huge because the entire exit closes up on us a lot. And that was really the most difficult thing. However, it's still a bit uneven there, and you really have to put a lot of weight on the front because otherwise it wants to slide out from under you, which isn't the most pleasant feeling at that speed.
What's the speed in the middle of that corner?
About 250 kilometers per hour.
That's manly, Piotr.
Yes, and during the race, I really improved that corner. It was actually going quite nicely. I was still losing a bit to the leaders, but the riders in front of me weren't pulling away anymore, which I'm happy about.
I really regretted that you don't have a camera on your motorcycle, is that right?
No, it couldn't be mounted.
Exactly, because I don't know what Dorna's rules are, so I don't know which riders have cameras, which riders have onboard footage.
Those cameras then belong to Dorna, and only Dorna has access to that footage. And what's also interesting is that if someone doesn't have such a camera installed, they have to have an additional small weight, which weighs several dozen grams.
That's cool. I was really disappointed that there wasn't a camera. Let's be honest, we knew you'd be riding at the back, watching everyone really learning, so I was just watching those first corners to see if you were keeping up. And from what I saw at the very beginning of the race, you were able to stick with the group a bit.
Yes, but that was more on the first step where the pack actually goes a bit slower. But even in the second half of the race, which was very short anyway, I was already losing not a bit over 3 seconds, but a bit under 3 seconds to the leader. So I'm happy about that we kept making progress from session to session. And honestly, this is a very, very difficult track.
Exactly, and the conditions were extreme. As I wrote to you on Sunday, I didn't have the chance to watch the race because I was in the race myself. Look, what a nice bruise I have.
Beautiful.
Nice. I'll tell you the story. Basically, it ended with me winning the race for you to Piotr. But then it turned out that I didn't quite realize the race was already over because there was a little misunderstanding with the flag and Mr. Jubal decided to drive a bit on my line. At the moment when I thought I was doing the last lap, I'll send you the video later, it's interesting too, and...
So the bruise happened after the finish line, is that right?
A bruise after the finish line. So the victory in the second race was mine, but well, the crash was pretty funny too. Anyway, I only watched that race on Monday, and I just couldn't believe it because I won't lie. I first watched MotoGP and everything was great there, nice weather. Suddenly I watched Moto2 and I'm like, what's going on?
Moto3 was the same beautiful weather.
Yeah.
No problem.
And not only is it your first time at the World Championships, not only are you on a bike you don't know, not only are you on a track you don't know, which is very difficult and one of the hardest, but in the middle of the race it starts raining, then stops, then rains again, then stops again.
Yeah, all the riders were saying that the toughest tracks are Silverstone, Misano, and Phillip Island, and they don't really know which one is the hardest, but Misano definitely qualifies as one of the toughest tracks on the calendar. No, sorry, it's actually the second toughest. It's fighting for second place, without doubt. Texas is.
Oh, yeah, right. It's a huge potato field too.
But in first place, Bali has a very, very big advantage.
Right, but what makes it so tough? The layout, the bumps, or the unpredictable weather? Although at Misano the weather should be predictable, right?
It's more about the layout plus the bumps.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a unique track because the corners feel different on entry than on exit. And even simple setups like a 180-degree turn where it's just braking, leaning in, and accelerating outtake their own tricks, so to speak, for getting through faster. And overall, there are a lot of complicated corners there as well. If you make a mistake in one, it usually carries over to the others, to the next bends. But besides that, there's significant bumps don't help either if you brake even a little bit too late and want to brake a bit harder while already leaned over. Instead of just getting the bike a bit more sideways and losing some speed, the entire rear end starts violently bouncing and throws you completely off your intended line, all because of those problematic bumps.
And
fortunately, I already knew the track somewhat. I knew the corners and what to expect, so just learning the sequence itself took me very little time, but actually mastering this track is really difficult.
I wonder whether COVID had any impact on that or not. Because what kind of support do you get from the other riders there? Because we know that at the top, I suspect there might not be much friendship, but you definitely know some of these riders, and in theory, it would seem like you could count on their support. Any advice? I don't know, maybe access to telemetry? I don't know what you have, but right now with COVID, you can't just go to someone's garage and knock, hey guys, what's up? How's it going? How should I take this corner?
I mean, theoretically you can, because for a long time, Iger Laguna was helping a lot. Came on Friday, we talked on Thursday, even before going out on the track, just before heading out, just to walk the lap on foot, you know. And then on Friday after the first session, he also went over the tachometer data with us and told us what to focus on the most. And yeah, he really helped me a lot with that, because there are a lot of things in Misano, but we talked about what to focus on the most and what to generally improve. So it definitely gave me that extra boost to understand the motorcycle theory faster.
Okay, who do you have on your team as your teammate? Who is there with you?
Bob Schneider.
And the Dutchman? And how did you know him before, or did you just get to know him now?
I know him by sight. He sometimes comes to Valencia for winter training. Once every few days, perhaps every 2 days, or even just once or twice a month, this occurs. And I once saw him at the track when he was riding Supermoto, but we didn't talk.
Okay, have you established any kind of relationship now? Did he help you out as well? Can you use his data?
Yes. We used Bobo's data, and did establish some kind of relationship. I think it's quite a good one, but nothing special either.
Well, that's obvious. Competition is competition. I'm really glad.
Yes, the very first person you truly want to beat and overcome is your own teammate.
Right, he's riding the same thing, isn't he?
Exactly.
I don't know if you're aware, the commentators spoke very highly of you during the practice sessions.
I'm sure they had a lot.
They said you're a very intelligent, composed person who speaks a surprisingly large number of languages. So you've been noticed not just by the team, but it seems like by everyone, Dorna, the commentators and all that. Has anyone talked to you? They're interested because, you're another country's representative on the team, right?
Yes. I haven't talked to many people. I also spoke a bit with the photographer. I also talked to the commentator, who also covers the European Championship races, whom I had met before, but apart from that, not too many people.
Okay.
I think they had enough work to do there.
Yeah, that's true. But that's good. Thanks to that, in my opinion, there's no pressure building up. I also hope that everyone around in Poland will agree that there's no point in creating pressure. because the more relaxed your mind is, the faster you ride.
Yes, of course.
So, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to another successful race training in Barcelona. And of course, we're all keeping our fingers crossed for things to keep moving forward. Because that guy over there is injured, right? I see. The one you're replacing?
He's not injured, just has some unknown illness. They know that he had some kind of issue a few months ago. They don't know what it is. And he has a problem with oxygen transport in his blood, so he gets tired very quickly, and it takes him a long time to recover. Before, it used to take him 2 or 3 hours to rest. Now it takes him 2 or 3 days.
Okay, well, we're keeping our fingers crossed for the guy to get healthy, and at the same time, we're rooting for your progress to keep growing so that you can get in as many training sessions as possible this year, and then we'll be cheering for you next season.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. I hope we'll talk again after Barcelona too.
I hope so too.
Well, have a nice evening, Piotr. See you. I'll be watching you on television, and we'll chat after the race. Bye.
All right, bye.